Hello, my name is Yves Maurer and I work at the National Library of Luxembourg.
My name is Ben Els and I also work at the National Library of Luxembourg.
I started working in web archiving in 2015 when we first started to implement our web archive, but the library had already made earlier proof of concept, of which I was not a part.
Yeah, for me it's in June of 2017 that I joined the library and I became digital curator of the web archive. For me, to be honest, I didn't know anything about web archiving or had even heard about it before I before I applied at the library. And but already when I read the job description, it made sense to me, and I thought, okay, this could be a really good opportunity. And I was very happy to be able to work in this field now.
I'm an IT person and I started working for automatic translation company. And I worked there for 7 years, and it was a nice mix because it was in between IT and culture and language, which is also something I really like. And then I started working at the library and I was doing digitization. So it was also in the library with cultural heritage, but in a different area. And when the library was finally ready to start getting people for doing the web archive, I transitioned from digitization to the web archive because I had been involved in setting it up. And I thought it would be my own baby. I don't want to let it go. I want to be involved in the future. So we first did a proof of concept in 2004, 2005, because the new library law was being written and our director wanted to include the digital legal deposit in it. So we needed to know what it actually takes to do a web archive. Out of that came a good report, and unfortunately, we couldn't, as an organization, manage to get the funds and the people to actually implement it. So in the end, it only got implemented in 2016 when we did our first harvests. And because we had the possibility of recruiting someone, which was in effect my colleague Ben, who started in 2017, and now we have an ongoing operation. I think it's the same idea as most national libraries have. It's that the printed collections are the production of the knowledge of the society. And already in the mid-90s, it started to be very much digital. There was a lot of things which were only produced in digital, which didn't exist on paper. And with the democratization of the web and now the new forms of engagement, it's really clear that the knowledge of the society is not in paper at all anymore, mostly. So it's also very much digital and lives on the internet. And the internet is not necessarily only the web. I mean, there are apps, there are other protocols, there's live streaming and so on. So it goes even further. And as a library, we want to keep on being relevant in the future. And one of the ways to be relevant is to collect that content, index it, make it available for researchers, and preserve it for the future.
In a more general fashion, it's all the domains contained in the .lu top level domain, and in a more broad way, we could say every website that is about Luxembourg, by Luxembourgish people, or about Luxembourgish people. So that is kind of our interpretation of the legal deposit that we have. But we see the instead of seeing the legal deposit as an obligation, we see it as a possibility. So we have the different possibilities of what we want to include in our scope, and we try to be as inclusive as possible. Yes, in some cases we had a series of targeted crawls over different election campaigns, and we selectively included some social media pages, also YouTube channels of the political parties, of candidates, of political commentary, also news media. Yes, but it's not on a regular basis. It was over a short period of time. Twitter, Facebook. I believe we also tried Instagram for a bit, although didn't play a big role in that context. We are currently moving to our new building with a new reading room, and our plan is to to make the web archive accessible from the new reading room.
In general, we're working. I mean, we have a small technical team. So I'm the IT part, and Ben is the curatorial part of the web archiving team. So we have some support internally. This thing is, right now we mostly do our crawls with outside partners, but we also do a few things in-house. And we want to, once the new building is settled in and everything is fine, we want to expand our internal operation for reasons of flexibility. The people working in our web archiving program are sitting here on the couch. So that's both of us. And well, my role is more the technical part, and Ben's role is the curatorial part, so putting together the collections.
We do very little going on at the moment, just because of time issues, because during the time that we do quality assurance, we are not looking at expanding our collections. We are not harvesting, so it's a bit of a question of juggling our resources, and we basically have to be confident enough that the results are mostly okay. So we have to manage expectations in that regard, that we are not able to look into the details. I think it would be helpful to have a basis of understanding the functioning of websites, how the architecture of certain types of websites works, what the thinking is behind certain ways that different media behave on websites, that could help in figuring out what results you are hoping from your harvests in the end, and probably also in that way to know what your harvesting tools are doing, how the crawler might behave, what the idea behind spiders, etc. is. So that's probably good knowledge to have. No, that's really Yves who is teaching me these things, and the other colleagues also from the IT department, where I really learn new things every day, and they are even pushing me to or encouraging me to maybe learn some coding or some languages, which seems very far out there for me, but I think that, of course, that would be very helpful as well. We have some collaborations, but that's a big area that we would like to develop and do more work in, is to ask other institutions for their seat lists, for their area of expertise, to tell us what the important sites would be. For example, there's the National Literature Archive in Luxembourg, and they have a list of all authors and publishing houses, and also authors who Luxembourg authors who work abroad from their publishers and editors, and they are really happy that we can archive those. So it's very easy to get those lists, and we just have to find the right people from different sectors who can help us in developing those lists. Very soon they will be able to do so. We are working at webarchive.lu, which will be our website created to promote the web archive, to show what collections we are working on, and where a big part of the website will be to encourage participation. So there will be a simple form where you can say, please archive this website. We might also ask for certain permissions with that, if the website owner wants to go further with this. And the big question will be, none of the collections we have are complete or perfect. There's always something missing, and if you feel that you're missing something, you can always tell us, and we are happy to keep.
In terms of terabytes, we're at around 50 terabytes of compressed work files. And in terms of millions of URLs, I honestly don't know. I think it's about 350 million or something like this. For capture, we use a mix of Heratrix, which is used by the Internet Archive, and Brosler, mostly, and then we also use some wget harvests for easy sites that are mostly in the state sector, where they're very static and easy to archive. And then for access, we actually use Open Wayback. I mean, internally, we need to do a little bit of QA. For analyzing the web archive, we use Elasticsearch and Kibana to have just a big index where you can run queries to see what we have, what is missing, and so on. And then for preservation, we're ingesting it in our collaborative preservation tool that we have together with the National Archives and the National Computing Center, which is based off Preservica. I'm from the IT department. I'm the technical support for the web archive, but of course, I mean, we have the rest of the IT team, if it's for servers, for small projects for programming, or for integration work. For example, our colleague who's responsible for digital preservation is not here, but she, of course, takes care that everything gets ingested and preserved and so on.
We consider it as an enhancement, so it's adding to the heritage collections. What we are also going to develop is not only suggestions from the users from outside, but also to have our colleagues, our people from within the library contributing to the development of collections, because there as well we have specialists in every field, and especially at the Luxembourgensia, the heritage department. Those are the people who know Luxembourgish world and culture best. So we need to develop that internal collaboration as well.
If I may add something, I mean, that's why it was very important for the library to have this sort of duo collaboration between the IT department and the heritage department, and not create something completely apart where people sit in an office together and nobody knows what they're doing. It's really, we try to embed it into the main library services, because it's really one of the future developments of the library, what the core business will be. The immediate future, it's going to be the access. I mean, that's the first part we're working on. The second part we're working on already a little bit, but we really want to do next year as well, is researcher access, because we have close ties to the University of Luxembourg, and they have been running a winter school this year about digital methods and also web archives. And in the future, they want to expand that. They want to also have a master's thesis, maybe PhD thesis using web archives, and we definitely want to be involved in that. And then also starting next year, we want to expand our own harvesting infrastructure so that in 5 years, we would be in a place where we can offer the whole services. So like from harvesting to preservation and researcher access.
There are two parts to our collaboration. One is the domain crawls that we do twice a year, which are operated by Internet Archive, where we basically have a recurring contract with them, with certain limitations and rules, and the results we receive via hard disks. And we get regular updates. We talk via Skype to see how the crawls are going. Then the second part is our collaboration with Archive.it, where we have a subscription to the service, and we use this for more targeted crawls. For example, the election crawls we had in 2017 and 18, and also European elections this year, where we are more autonomous. We can try out different things, and also try out different frequencies of captures.
Project communication is all via Skype, documents, or email. And then project communication is for the broad crawls. We basically get the reports on an FTP site. we look through them, and then based on our analysis, we send the feedback results, and then their engineers try to adjust the scope, or take some things off, block some things, or go further on some sites. And in terms of Archive It, it's basically a self-service portal. So whatever we want to do, we put our crawl seeds there. We do our crawls. We test them. We check the QA. I mean, we do QA when we can. When we can't, we just accept it like this. And then if there were problems, in rare cases where we really cannot figure it out, we open a support case. But in other cases, it's basically us working with it and not really interacting with the service provider. You have to be clear about your expectations. So the thing is, usually, well, if your scope is big and you're a public institution, you have to do a public tender. And for your public tender, you have to describe what you actually want from your service provider. And this description has to be something realistic. So, and that has to be achievable, and it also has to be in line with what your budget is. And that is hard to find out, I think, in the world of web archiving, because there are so many variables which affect this. Like, and mostly, I mean, money is affected by all the manual processes. And so if you're asking for manual processes, well, your expectations might be a bit too high, or your budget might be too low.
Therefore, the IIPC and events like these are really good opportunities to find other organizations who might have the same expectations, or the same size of teams, budget constraints, and will always have different experiences with different providers or tools, different levels of experience. And I think probably coming to different events beforehand will also help to make better decisions. It's probably not to get stuck with the overwhelming scope of the job of archiving the web, because doing everything in a perfect way all the time is not possible. We will always run behind the changes on the web, and therefore not to get stuck on trying to grab the big picture, but maybe to see smaller areas where you can focus on, and start from there, and try to find certain subjects and areas of interest where you can start with smaller projects and do those really well. Try to present those to the audience, and then get participation in from that way. That's, I think, the track that we want to go on and continue over the next years. Yeah.
I mean, I totally agree with what Ben said. But from a technical point of view, I think we're really at a crossroads where the web is becoming less open, and big platforms are implementing their own walled gardens more and more, and people are, experimenting, it's now old, new HTML tags, where it's like everything is interactive, and the standard crawlers are not working anymore on a lot of new sites, and even the second generation crawlers will not work if the page requires interactivity. And there's a lot of customization towards individual audiences, be it geographical or language-based or things like this. And that is something that is really hard to capture, if not impossible. And so the thing is, I think from a technical point of view, we're leaving the era where the web was something equivalent to print in a sort of way. Like there was something which was being published to everyone. And now it's not anymore. And I think that is going to be a huge challenge on how we approach this as organizations.
I think also a big challenge that we face as individual institutions, but also as members of the IPC, is to raise the awareness for the necessity of web archiving in the general public. But I think we could also do more in presenting it as a service to basically everyone who uses the web, everyone who has ever created a website. So not only to show like a lot of time has passed where we lost a lot, where we are running behind. But so that it is necessary to pick up the pace, but also to show that yes, it's something that anyone can benefit from, and maybe that could help in bringing down some of the walls that are being built right now. Yeah, I think we already mentioned the management of expectations to be as clear as possible about what the goals are and what realistic steps could be in reaching those goals, and not to look at the utopic picture where everything has to be perfect right from the start, and that it will take time to reach goals step by step.